What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFW Legacy Series Live. For the first time, we are actually in person tonight at Rollertown Beerworks on North Oklahoma Drive in Salina, celebrating the re-release of the Coffee Nods Grown. With me are Ben, Skin, and DJ Theory. Welcome, guys.
Hola.
Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah.
It's this is a little bit different format than what I'm used to. We've done 11 of these so far, and they've always been kind of live stream with everyone in their basements, houses. Some of the bands we've done, other members are on tour, so they were on a tour bus. So this is a sign the pandemic's ending. People are doing things again. So this is awesome.
Great sign of that.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, let's just go ahead and get down to what we're here for. We are re-releasing the Coffee Nods critically acclaimed 2006 release Grown that I think sold like 5 copies.
If that.
At least.
It went wood in the what they say in the radio or the
I got
record
wood.
industry. So that is for sale now at dfwlegacyseries.com for $44.99. All the proceeds are going to benefit a wonderful charity called the One Tribe Foundation. So please, please, please pick this up. Let's help out a great deserving charity. If you're anywhere near Salina, come on up here. The Big German is what I'm having. It is fantastic.
Me too.
We just tried the sour cherry.
That is the
cherry mojito sour. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My favorite.
Oh, yeah, that is what that is.
Yeah, it's almost gone. It's hard to see.
So 2 new beers released tonight. What was the other one?
Fat Boy Fall.
All right, awesome. Well, so, you know, this is something that we created last July, a year ago, July. Myself and my partner, G.I. Sanders, are big vinyl enthusiasts. G.I. actually owns a record store, 2 of them now in Painted Tree marketplaces in Frisco and Highland Village. And we were big in the local music scene, late 90s, all the way up through about 2010. G.I. was in a band called South FM that got signed to MCA. They did some touring, had a song on Law and Order, like had a little slice of success. I managed several bands that got signed to record deals and got dropped right after it. So, you know, what can you do?
Their lead singer, Paco, has played, South FM's lead singer has played this fine
Wait,
establishment.
Paco Estrada?
Yeah, he was the lead singer of South FM.
Dude, he's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays that here all the time.
Paco is one of the best songwriters out there, bar none. And the dude is incredibly talented.
Yeah.
So, yeah, South FM was a release that we did on the DFW Legacy Series. We've done Edgewater, we've done Slow Roosevelt, we've done the Nixons, we've done Flicker Stick. So this is our first foray into the hip hop world. So thank you guys for letting us put this out. Thank you for letting us kind of, you know, let you guys be the guinea pig here in the hip hop world. So history, Ben, you and I have long history. Honestly, we grew up 4 houses down from each other in Richardson, Texas. Played a lot of wiffle ball on the side of my house to where we, I think the home plate is just now grown back, probably like 40 years later.
Yeah.
And then Skin, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. You're part of the reason I got into music and got into DJing is
this blaming me?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
I blame you.
You know, there was a couple of times where I was, you know, I say hanging out with Ben, but I was just basically trying to get him to take me to your house to see your record collection and make mixtapes. And so that introduced me to the world of new wave and a lot of this cool music because my brother was a hard rock guy. I mean, it was all hard rock. And then I, you know, found Depeche Mode and some other groups.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, through mixtapes, through you guys. So we've known each other for a long time. I worked in radio forever. You guys worked, you know, still doing it. So there's a history here, and so it was an easy phone call to make to you, Ben. I think I actually called you almost a year ago about this.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest with you, we were trying to line up releases. We didn't know if we'd make it past the first or second because let's be honest, it's incredibly expensive to produce a vinyl record.
Yeah.
It's a niche format. I mean, it's coming back, but you know, even a year ago when we did it, it wasn't to the extreme that people are going now. And we're doing bands that people have most of the long forgotten about until you say, hey, I remember them. And, you know, so this is kind of a really cool thing. It's been a passion project. Every one of these, we've helped a lot of great charities. We've helped the SPCA of Texas. We've helped Journey of Hope, which is a grief counseling we did for Edgewater when their lead singer passed away. And then with you guys, it's One Tribe Foundation. So we're really looking forward to doing this and just want to right off the bat say thank you for allowing us to do this with you guys.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful. You know, this album was a passion project, and you know, we poured our hearts and souls into it, and we're very proud of it. It wasn't a traditional project. You know, it wasn't something we made in an effort to go push it and make it in the business. It was really for closure. I mean, I think it's really unique in that regard. And so if there are people out there who really dig this, then I think for them this would be more of a best kept secret, because it really didn't get out. It really wasn't shopped necessarily, and it didn't really get out in large volume. We were at the time, doing shows at the Ticket, and so we performed at Ticket Stock in 2007, and it got a little bit of love on the Ticket and whatnot. But it's not a widely known album, but I'm very proud of it. I think I'm biased, obviously. I mean, I hear a lot of my stuff that's older, and I'm like embarrassed by it. I'm still to this day incredibly proud of this. I love this project. I love what it stands for. And it was a labor of love. Took a couple years. It was very expensive. The people we got involved went on to do amazing things in music. So, I'm honored that you asked. And the idea that we can somehow open up the memory book and go relive making this project, which is something I love, at the same time help a charity like One Tribe Foundation, which attempts to prevent and reduce suicide, obviously, with military, first responders, and anybody. We can do all this for charity. Absolute no-brainer. Honored by the invite.
So let's take it back to the 90s. So obviously you were, going through, and you've told the story several times on the radio. High school, you went to college, took you 10 years to get your degree because you wanted to drop out and be a rap star. I first got wind of you doing this in a band called Sons of Soul. So tell us about Sons of Soul, how that came about. Kind of walk us through that part of the music scene, because again, I think a lot of people on the DFW Legacy Series page will be, fascinated by the hip hop scene in Dallas back then. We focused on rock. Let's take it back on the hip hop side.
I think we just happen to be armed with like one of the greatest humans in the world to do this. So Skin has been, one of my best friends on the planet since 1982. And he's always, those of us that are friends with Skin know he's just incredibly bright. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's got a steel trap memory. Like, he reads something once and he'll remember it forever. And he's just a far more impressive human being than I am. And anytime that anything involves history, I've already forgotten what I had for lunch today. And he can tell you what I had for lunch in 82 when we met. So with regard to kind of starting this with the Sons of Soul and the history of local hip hop and how we intersected with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Skin Wade.
Okay, thank you, Ben. I'll never live up to all that BS, but we were, when we were in high school, we were freestyle rapping, and it was a really fun time period because the Beastie Boys had infiltrated the suburbs, very much so. Like, Run DMC did it, but the Beastie Boys took it to this other level, and we were very much kids going to high school parties, and it was a John Hughes movie. But Ben and I, within our little social circle, always connected because we were the creatives within our social circle. So when we had gone off to college, I had very much kind of lost my way and didn't know what I was trying to do. And then hip hop gave me some center and some focus, and I thought I was going to be a hip hop writer. That's at least what my dream was. My dream was to be a writer, to be a sports writer. Then I started caring more about hip hop. And so I started writing articles about local hip hop artists, and that got us a few connections. And then Ben came home from Texas Tech and had been, wanted to record some music. And so he and I were working together at Chili's on Spring Valley, and a guy that was working there was like, hey, you guys should go to Goodnight Audio and record music. And you came to the house, so what my setup was. I didn't have a sampler. I had turntables, and we were, I was stacking music, I was stacking records, and then like writing down ideas, but we didn't have gear. And our other buddy who you grew up with, Chris Alvarez, he had musical interests and would spend a lot of time over. And so we were kind of crafting these things in our head. And, the way our relationship has always worked, Ben has always been like, well, let's go do this. Let's go do something big. So we had this studio access, and we didn't really know what we were doing. We just had a bunch of ideas. And so it was very much, let's go in here and pretend like we know what we're doing and see what happens. And we had access to people that knew what they were doing. And so we kind of worked our way into the scene that way. And really quickly, we were getting shows that we didn't know how to do. Like, I remember Ben going, hey, we're going to do a show this Sunday at Americana, Club Americana down in Deep Ellum. And I was like, well, what does that entail? I don't even know what that means. Like, what are we doing? And so it was like, hey, we're going to hook up a tape deck, and we're going to play an instrumental that we made at the studio, and him and Alvarez are rapping over this tape deck, and I'm scratching over it. Like, it was very much trial by fire, but you act like you know what you're doing. And then you figure it out or you don't figure it out. And actually, I remember, Jason hasn't talked yet, but our buddy Theory, the other half of the Coffee Knots, he was the first dude I ever saw videotape a show. Like, you used to tape shows for before Shabazz 3, they were called, or I guess it's when Ty was an iFlowmatics.
It was DDT.
Yeah, DDT. And I remember him recording shows. So we all knew each other from the scene. And honestly, by the time, we got to like 1995, I think you and I both felt like we were washed up because this is the first generation of rap. So there is the idea of an older rap dude hadn't happened yet. And so I remember being 25 and going, man, my life's over. I haven't done anything and I'm 25. We're done, And so, we both went back to school and all that, but obviously we stayed in touch. And then when Ben was, selling advertising right out of college, I'd kept staying, trying to do music and getting a music production company going, but he was creating these great opportunities for us to be on the ticket and widen our profile. And so when we would go on the ticket, we would talk about rap, or he would make instrumental or make intro songs for different shows and stuff. So we stayed rooted in the hip hop scene despite going and doing other things. I was writing a hip hop column for Quick. Eventually that led to he and I writing a humor column for Quick.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so we always figured out ways to stay involved, but we keep getting Ben keeps getting us in these situations that we have to figure out our way out of. So that's kind of our history going through the rap.
Well, that's a pretty good,
incredible talent.
You've got to have a skill set to be able to do that.
Yeah.
In all honesty, there are a ton of people get put in that position. They fall flat on their face.
Yeah.
But I would, when we were our group, Sons of Soul, it was us and Chris Alvarez, like you said. And then later it was Rob Love. Chris Alvarez, got tired of doing it. So we got really close though. We got to where we were, Mad Flava was letting us open up for them, and they're DFW legends.
Yeah.
Baby G, Cole Chris, K-Son, Mikey, and Hype Dog eventually. But they would let us open up for them, and they were getting every major gig. And then, we ended up opening up for House of Pain here and in Austin.
Houston.
Yeah. And then, it wasn't like, that's a good example of memory. It wasn't that we were traveling all over the world. I just couldn't remember the city.
There was definitely, though, I sent you a picture. I found my cassette of Sons of Soul. Back when that came out, I was 17, 18. I was working at the Eagle when the Eagle was a top 40 station doing a Friday and Saturday night mix show. And I played the song Sack of Nuts for Jimmy Steele, who was the program or the music director at the time. I wish I had the radio knowledge now that I had back then, because I was just a kid going, hey, listen to this. Isn't this cool?
Yeah.
And he loved it because it was around the same time that they were playing Cantaloupe by Us 3.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was kind of that same type jazz infused, a little bit of hip hop. And I remember him asking me going, what is this? This is really good. I was off my neighbor, and I just kind of walked off. And now knowing what I know, I wish I would.
Sorry about your neighbor.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think the reason we kept getting opportunities is because we were very naive, but we were also very earnest in what we were doing. We were very much not trying to capitalize on a culture. We were very much desperate to be a part of that culture because we very much respected that culture. And I think the people that were ensconced in that, they sensed that from us. And quite frankly, even though we were super green, the stuff that's on that cassette, I like much better than the stuff we did later when we knew what we were doing, because that was just a lot more honest and a lot more sans influence of others. It was very much whatever me, Ben, and Alvarez thought we were creating. And that particular song, Sack of Nuts, I remember very specific things about that. Number one, we used samples we could have never gotten cleared. We used the drum beat from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Number two, we used a Three Dog Night sample from Mama Told Me Not to Come, which would have been very expensive to clear. And then number three, I remember this so much. When we were in the studio recording that, I fell asleep on the couch and I was snoring and they recorded me snoring on the couch, and then we ran that underneath the track.
Yeah.
And so there's this element of that where there's talking about, hey, Skin, wake up, and you're dreaming, and then Ben starts rapping about the dreaming and all that. And so it was all this just like burst of creative energy that wasn't savvy enough to know what we should and shouldn't be doing.
Sure.
So the people that knew what they were doing, I think, latched onto that. And that's why they sort of let us come play in their playground, so to speak.
Yeah, and I agree with you. You know, it's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it till you put it that way. But like when I listened to the stuff we did right after that, especially, and I'd have to listen to that to see how, you know, I hear myself and I cringe because like I had, you know, for me, when I heard A Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul and stuff like that, I heard, okay, wait a second, what are they rapping about? And wait a second, there may be room for us, because we loved rap, we loved freestyle, we loved songs and stuff, but didn't even know there was really a place for us in the genre. And then I heard that and I was like, oh wait, maybe there is a place for us to do some stuff, and it's not that serious of content. But I was so influenced I wanted so bad to be Cold Chris from Mad Flava, and I loved East Coast rap. And so my voice, when I go back and listen to those songs, like, oh my God, I'm trying so hard to be from the East Coast. And so I cringe when I hear some of that. But, you know, obviously this project is years later and a lot of that's behind us. But
this is a very pure representation of Ben, because it's for a lot of different reasons. But also, you know, at the time that this was done, you're 6 or 7 or 8 years removed from being a part of a scene. And it's just like anything. When you go become a part of a scene, that scene engulfs you and spits you back out. You know, you give up you to become a part of this scene. And this exists outside of a scene in a lot of regards. So it's a very pure I think a very pure representation.
So let's fast forward a little bit and kind of talk about media. So Fox Sports 1190, was that the first station you guys were on?
Yeah.
So what, Sons of Soul has ended at this time? Am I got the time right? So
yes.
Let's go to our historian.
Is that Basketball Jones?
Basketball Jones was
hold on, I want to skip too forward. When was the TV sales career? Because this is very fascinating to me.
Same time.
So
So I graduated from North Texas in 99, graduated from high school in 89. And my first job out of North Texas was selling advertising for K-Star 49. And I was really lucky to get that job, an amazing job. They had the Dallas Mavericks television rights, and it was a station that only existed for like a year, and I was selling advertising, and it was a new concept for TV stations where there was only a sales team in each city. They had an Atlanta station, a Miami station, LA station, but there's only sales. All the production came out of one market. So like, we'll beat the system because we'll do all of our production in one market. Each station won't have to have a big production facility. So we're just trying to be efficient. And so with the Mavericks, they didn't have the manpower to produce much in the pregame show. It was being produced out of Miami. And so the Miami station was getting overworked. And they're like, hey, we need you guys to come up with 2 minutes of content. Just 2 minutes, anything from your staff. And I was in my boss's, Rick Mills' office when that conversation's happening. And he's like, I don't have anyone. And I'm going, oh my God, I got a guy who knows everything about the Mavs. You know, let us do it. You know, And I was already writing this thing for the website called the Rogers Report about the Mavs. And so he was like, get out of my office. And then I just followed up with him and kept begging, and he had no other choice. So he gave us the Rogers Report. So really the first thing we did before we did the radio stuff, because that was before 1190. It was. We had a TV segment in the Mavs game, in the pregame show.
The pregame show.
Was this another one where you said, "What are you getting us into? We don't know how to do this."
Well, it was very much, you know, what I'm talking about. Where like Ben goes and creates an opportunity, and then suddenly we have to figure out how to be on TV. And the same thing happened with radio. But timing plays a big part in this too, because we get on there and it's the first year they make the playoffs, and then they. You know, in a very impromptu fashion, win Game 5 at Utah. He's in the crowd there. I remember texting you, and you were, you went out on the floor. And so it's like right place, right time. And there's suddenly people paying attention to this. And then in the middle of it, we're just kind of standing there. Hey, we're in the middle of this. Look at us. We're legit. And so it was Tom Gribble that called Ben and said, hey, I know you're TV guys, but would you consider doing a radio show? We were out of opportunities. The TV thing was done.
Yeah, he was like, to his point, he said, I know y'all are TV guys, but would you hear me out? And I'm like, oh my God, we just BS'd our way into this. Like we're on such thin ice.
And also, Ben's doing this with his career because he's moved over to KTVT now with the Mavericks. And so his profile is growing in the sales world.
So this is the part that's fascinating to me because I kind of know the backstory. So you guys, you're doing radio shows, 1190, you move over to the ticket, you're doing fill-in, you're doing weekends, people go on vacation, you're doing that. You're making money, like a lot of money selling TV, like six-figure salary. And at one point, you get offered full-time job at the ticket, probably making the equivalent of $12 an hour to do shows, and you give up that.
So we loved the ticket from the minute it went on the air, which was what, 94, something like that,
Somewhere in there.
And
Summer '94.
because it was the
No, it was
Super Bowl in
the
Atlanta.
week of the second Super Bowl.
Yeah.
95 or for 94.
Yeah.
So, but I remember at the time we had delivery jobs. So we were still at the tail end of chasing the rap thing, and we had these terrible jobs where Skin and I would go cut business cards in the morning and then go deliver business cards all over the Metroplex. I'm driving the biggest POS with no car stereo because it had been stolen at the state fair. I had a jam box in my passenger seat with a coat hanger antenna because the antenna broke, and I was listening to the ticket on it all day. My brother tells me I was the 9th person ever to call into the ticket. So
Wow.
we love the ticket. And so I'm listening to the ticket. I'm like, hey, these guys are like us. They like music and sports. They're not just sports. So first of all, we fell in love with the ticket. So the idea of working our way into the ticket was something we were always interested in doing. And with Skin's incredible basketball knowledge, we kicked down that door and we were sending over our tapes, of our show at Fox Sports 1190 to Bruce Gilbert. Bruce Gilbert was the program director at the ticket, and he was telling us, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. He was coaching us just out of the kindness of his heart.
Sure.
And then we got that Mavs postgame show and shocked the world. And then the first night of the Mavs postgame show, or one of the first nights, Skin gets into a knockdown, drag-out argument with Cuban on the air. We're supposed to go to break. They're arguing for like 30 minutes. We've blown through 2 breaks. And, Skin is incredibly knowledgeable about basketball. My focus is the business, the relationship. So I'm like, Cuban called us. Yes. And then I'm like, oh, he hates us. Oh, no. Like, don't argue. I'm like, oh, the kid don't. And Skin is just like, no, I mean, he's wrong. I'm going to tell him, And so they had this incredible debate. And essentially, soon after, Cuban tried to get us fired. He went to the ticket and was like, hey, you got to get rid of these guys. Who are these clowns? And so they took our segment that Cuban hated to Norm Hitzges and made Norm listen to it. And for Norm to tell them if anything we said was inaccurate. And he said, everything Skin just said is exactly right and accurate. And so the ticket, instead of giving us the boot, told the Mavs, you want to kick them out of the old number 7? That's fine. But they're right, and we're standing by our guys. And so suddenly we went from being these dorks that no one knew at the ticket to being, oh, my God, Cuban tried to have them fired. Sweet. And so I don't know. I think it helped us fit in a little bit more.
Yeah.
But we were never, I don't want to mislead. We were never big-time players at the ticket. We were always the end of the bench, and we were so freaking honored to be there. And we did Saturday shows and vacation fill-in and Mavs post-game shows. But it was a dream come true to actually be on at the ticket. What you're talking about is there was a time where we'd worked our way to we were the next show. We were the 6th man. And I can remember the program director reaching out to us and saying, hey, one of the shows is having a contract negotiation that has stalled. And I guess they were ready. They were like, would you guys be willing to quit your day job? And I'm like, yes. And we're like, let's go. And he goes, don't do it yet. I was like, okay, so don't do it. I'm already in my boss's office. And anyways, the next day, he's like, hey, that deal I told you about, the deal, they got their show, they got their contract done. And so sorry. He goes, but you guys are ready, and, I'll help you go somewhere. I'd vouch for you guys. You're ready. And so we didn't have an opportunity. If we had stayed at the ticket, really not much has changed since then.
Yeah, the only thing that maybe would have happened is, maybe we would have been in play at some point when, they were moving Donnie to Norm's show and all that. I don't know how that would have played out.
Yeah.
There's really no way of knowing. Yeah. Maybe we could have fought our way on and been a regular night show or something. So
we made the right move by – so basically what happened was we had heard that Pugs and Kelly had walked out at Live 105.3. And we didn't know much about Live 105.3, really anything.
Dude, I remember you sent me the newspaper article.
Yeah, think about that newspaper article.
He was like, well, man, look at this. Here's an opening. And at the time also and I think part of it, and I think part of it came out of this, but at the time you were talking to Ward quite a bit.
Yeah, Ward White.
Ward White is there most famously around here, probably Erykah Badu's lawyer.
Right.
You probably know
Yep,
Ward.
I
He's
know
a
who
great
he is.
dude, lovely human. And so Ward was kind of advising us. And so Ben had seen this article and he reached out to Gavin Spittle, who was program director at Live 105. And he set up a meeting.
You know, what's funny about that too is we didn't really have a lot of audio to take him, but our column in Quick that he referenced, Hot Potato Salad, we just won Best New Columnist or something.
It was Best Dallas Columnist.
Best Columnist in D Magazine. So I took a stack of D Magazines to an interview and was like, we do a Saturday show on the Ticket, which we thought was the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, Saturday show. You know, so he didn't quite, but we're like P1s. We're like, oh, what are you talking about? You know how hard it is to get on the Ticket? And this stack of D Magazines. And we kind of talked our way into getting that opportunity. And so, that was our first full-time gig. Our show, we came after the Jagger Mafia, right?
We were 10 to 3.
10 to 3, 5-hour show, and then led into the Russ Martin show. But that was, at that time, I was selling advertising for CBS 11, like he said, and TXA 21, and I had become very good at it. And so that first full-time radio job was a $100,000 pay cut.
I remember talking to you about that. And that's why I was just like, what are you doing?
We had 2 kids in diapers, too. So we had 2 kids in diapers at the time, and I went to my wife. I was like, good news, bad news. Good news is I think our radio dream is going to happen. Full-time job. She's like, who's leaving the Ticket? I go, and it's not at the Ticket. It's at Live 105.3. She's like, what? What is that? And
isn't that Young Country?
I was like, man, we're going to do a comedy show. You know, it's just going to be no sports at all. We're just doing comedy. It's like our version of a Howard Stern show. And she was like, go for it. She knew that I would never be happy just being in a cubicle, although it was a great job. And so that weekend we had a for sale sign in our yard. I was so panicked. I was like, $100,000 cut. We're not gonna be able to live in this house anymore, but let's get a realtor. So we had a realtor, we had a for sale sign. We ultimately ended up being able to stay there, but it was scary. And that was our first job, Live 105.3, which was full time.
August of 08.
Not too long after that, you guys came and joined me over at ESPN.
October of 2009.
So that was a lot of fun getting to work with you guys. I know you came over, you did the Mavericks stuff there, then you did nights, if I remember.
We started off doing nights, and then by February we were, back then, if you remember correctly, we were coming on after Mike, and y'all were tape delaying Colin Coward.
Because we had to.
Well, the problem was that they wanted to have local on earlier.
Yeah.
But you guys had to run Colin, so they were tape delaying him. And then a news story would break, and you're tape delaying Colin, and he's talking about Tiger Woods got in a car or he doesn't know Tiger's been in a car crash, and he's talking about how great he looks for the Masters.
Yeah.
So it created this big problem. So we were moved earlier and went 9 to noon. But when we started, we were 11 to 2, I believe.
But the breakthrough was this, and I'm sorry, I keep so
hey.
you knew we were going to wind us up and get us going. But the breakthrough was this. So Skin kept making music all along the way and was very successful with what he was doing. And so he had a lot of different things cooking. One of the things he had going was the hydroponic sound system. Okay. And how would you explain what that is?
That was very much, when Ben and I were like kind of going our separate ways and going to go to college and all that, one of the things that was happening in hip hop was DJ Shadow was really getting a lot of pub. And he was doing instrumental albums. And then I was also a big fan of Massive Attack, which, was a Bristol group not Bristol, Connecticut, Bristol, London, that mixed dub music and R&B and hip hop and those kinds of sample-based influences. And so I also knew that I was like, man, I don't want to be on a stage ever again. So I kind of started moving into trying to do music in that world with the idea being that, all right, we'll do instrumental music, and then we'll try to get into the licensing world. So that's when I really started throwing myself into trying to understand licensing, sync music, different things like that. And so when we started going off in that direction, the idea was creating a collective that would be sort of ambiguous as to who all was involved, right? And so it becomes a bigger thing, and you hope of marketing it that way. Because I was like, man, I got a girl that I'm going to marry. I want to be stable. I don't want to try to go in a van and do shows. That part of my life is over. So I started focusing in on what that would look like. And so we created this shell concept called Hydroponic Sound System and did the first record. And then when we started, moving in towards the second record, I was like, all right, I think I want this one to be a little more hip hop based. And so that's when we had a particular song that I was like, man, Ben would sound really, really good on this. And so I thought it would be fun to have Ben on that track. And that was called Open Mic Night at the Solar Roller Rink. So he came in and recorded that. And I remember this very distinctly. He had a shop called Armhole. And I remember going in to pick up something that I had you do for me. And I remember this so distinctly. He was standing behind the counter and he said, what are you going to do about Ben? I remember that question.
I don't remember this until he mentioned it earlier. I have no recollection of this then I remember it.
I remember it being such a abstract question. What am I going to do about Ben? I don't know what that means.
It was his fault. So he had to account for it.
He will probably continue to live. I don't know what this means. And he was like, no, open mic on, and I was like, yeah, it's killer. And he was like, are you going to do a whole album with him? And I was like, he drives a Lexus. What are you talking about? Do you realize,
he can drive that to the studio?
Right. Ben is not leaving that life to go back into hip hop. You've lost
he can finance a record now.
I didn't even think about it in those terms. I was just thinking about, dude, do you realize how well Ben is doing? He's not going to go do a rap record.
It was so tied back to the Sons of Soul and my, history of being a fan of that group too, that in my mind, it's like, you are responsible. Did you see what you did? See what you did?
I was like, I didn't do anything. I made a beat with Ruben and Ben crushed it. What are you talking about?
So then that's the germ. That kind of is what led to the Coffee Nods.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do about Ben? So tell me, how does the Coffee Nods then come together? Are you approaching Ben? Is Skin approaching Ben?
That's what I got from him. You're crazy. What are you talking about?
Which he's right.
Give me my shirt. I'm going home. And he was
completely
right.
I wasn't about to go do a bunch of shows do any of that stuff.
Did I even mention it to you after that until after the game that I said, this is what you should do?
Yeah. So I just remember, when I recorded Open Mic at the Solar Roller Rink, it was, I loved it. It was just the concept of being like this washed up rapper at a roller rink. It's open mic night, and then busting it. I was 33 at the time,
and it's a killer verse. It's like the old Rakim style, where it's one verse all the way through.
So anyone watching, can they find this anywhere?
I think it's probably out there. It's probably on Spotify or out. If not, I'll post it.
I always visualized it in space too, just from the subtleness of the name and the production. It felt like this weird roller rink on a spaceship in orbit, and an old Back to the Future looking Ben rap.
It goes, you might think that my rhyme career is at brink rocking. Open mics at the rink will pay no mind. Keep fronting if you gotta. I'ma get open like a pinata. And it was like, it just from there, it's like, and so that definitely got the juices flowing, but by no means was I thinking, all right, I'm going to go try to get a show at Exodus. I didn't have any material and I wasn't interested in doing that anymore. I was trying, I love the creativity, but I wasn't doing it for business. And every time I say that, keep in mind, if like Jay-Z had said, hey, guess what? I would have said, I'll go.
Yeah.
So when I say I wasn't doing it for business, it's like Chris Rock says, one of the reasons a lot of guys don't cheat is because they never get an opportunity. It wasn't like people were knocking down my door to be in the music business. But at the same time, I wasn't chasing that either at that time. But that said, then a couple years later, Rob Vick, this incredibly talented local producer, was doing a similar project, right? Like he was producing beats and getting a million different MCs on it.
Yeah, it's like a compilation.
Lone Star mixtape. I've got a very scratchy.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, it's down here. We've got a whole box of Coffee Nuts.
Is it I think it might be under that grown. No.
I'd love to see
this
that.
Still just creeps me out that we have this on the
That's
table.
the baby.
That was
baby.
Ben's girlfriend at the time.
I think, hey, Jared, will you look in there? I think it's in there.
Yeah, it was a collaboration of MCs. With
It's like
Rob doing
Mess
beats.
and some of those dudes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Massive's
he
on
asked
there.
me, he had a beat that I don't know if that's the one he offered me or if it's just the one I fell in love with, but it had this real ominous Barbara Streisand sample in it with her singing, and you couldn't really tell it was her. But there's no way we could ever get that sample cleared, but it just was haunting. And so like later in life, I was just, I'm going to write a song. I didn't write it about anything that I normally would have written about when I was younger. I mean, at this point, I'm like 35. And so, there's someone in my life who had a work-life balance that was out of whack. And so I just did the old space metaphor, right? It's like the story was with this ominous sample, this astronaut who is on this mission and he's totally dedicated to his job. And then his space capsule runs out of power and he's floating, drifting out into space, but he has all this time on his hands to think. And so while he's sitting there thinking, he's realizing, oh my God, the last conversation I had with my wife, we fought about car keys and now I'm not going to be there to raise my kids. And so the idea was it was a metaphor about work-life balance. And, I hadn't written a song since Solar Roller Rink. And then prior to that, I hadn't written a song in a long time. So I was real happy with the way it came out. And I think Jason at that point was like, all right, let's go.
We had played in some basketball league and we were just chatting after on the way to the cars. And I pushed the same sentiment that I had asked Skin. I was like, why you should make music. The song is incredible. And then I get a phone call, I think maybe a week later after we have this combo, and he raps this astronaut. He's like, oh, I got this beat from Rob. Like, listen to this. And he just raps me Astronaut, that story on that type of storytelling level. And I was, again, just like, why aren't you making more music?
Which is awesome because it was cool to get that encouragement. And I don't remember how this, do you guys even know how the album started? Like what the first episode? I mean, obviously the Astronaut on it.
So we've got the Hardcore Casual EP here. So you said this is basically the first half of Grown?
Yeah,
Oh, this is still sealed.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
Open it.
No,
Okay,
don't. It's worth money if you don't open it. It's like a Star Wars action figure.
Don't play with it. That Rob Vick project came out, and then I think more and more people you were being exposed to more younger people mainly.
There's a couple. From my perspective, there's a couple interesting things here. Number one, the ticket is increasing our profile quite a bit. And also this is pre-Twitter, pre-Facebook and all that. So forums are very important at this time period. So you had the DFW hiphop.com. Is that what it was? DFW hip hop. And so a lot of the people that are on this are all spending their day gig on this website. I very much remember going on the ticket defending the DFWhiphop.com on the hard line because they were saying something about Corby being racist. And that became a topic on the hard line. And I remember going on and talking about that and defending the people on this website and defending Corby, saying, hey, you guys don't understand each other or whatever. But if you look at a lot of these people, and another thing that's badass is this song produced by DJ Rostaroot. He was working with Fife at the time. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
We had Fife. We actually had Fife come on a couple Dallas Mavericks post-game shows and join us doing analysis. So we were figuring out these ways as we were getting older and changing, our lives are changing to work hip hop into what we're doing with sports and having all these things cross boundaries. And so, looking at this, it's very much like, dude, here's Ginger Allen, the TV news reporter that Ben works with at Channel 11. It's a merging of all these different things that are happening that as I was in the radio, TV, film department in North Texas, and I took the one radio class. They made me tape where we actually spliced tape that you don't do anymore. I never thought we would be in radio, nor did I think I want to be in radio or any of that kind of stuff. It's just, that's where it started going. And to the point you made earlier, whenever Ben and I would get in these situations, we at least have a pretty good cachet of bullshit, that we can at least finesse our way through and then figure out what we're supposed to do later. And that's what was happening with radio and all these. At this point, he and Jason and I, we all know how to make a record at this point, right? We're in our 30s and we've gone through all that, but our lives are going in these different directions. And so he did a really good job of merging all of these things into a really, badass project.
So you did the EP. Are these the same versions that are on Grown?
Some of them. So I'll give you an example, like the Astronaut Song. So we're friends with Ward White, Erykah Badu's attorney. We mentioned him.
Yep.
So I start thinking I need to be very careful about all this. What if somebody did see it and wanted it? It's like not the goal of it, but when it happened, I don't want to screw that up. So I hired Ward White, and Ward White starts going through getting all the songs really buttoned up and getting samples cleared, and like you can't use that sample. So like the Barbra Streisand on the Astronaut, we didn't use that beat, the original beat on that, and so we got in the studio. I mean, this was a true labor of love. It was just it became a hobby. Like we were recording with this guy named Malix at his studio,
Liquid Lab.
Deep Ellum, right?
Deep Ellum.
Yeah.
And we would just go there after work, just go there after work. And then we'd have Chucky Sly come by or Aziz or different people come by. And then whoever was in the studio would help us make that song that night, whether they were, getting on a hook or whatever. And we were just creating. And it was not a cost-effective way to do it, but I was making a lot of money. And I had been poor for so long, not growing up, obviously, but when, when we were chasing the music dream, I'll never forget, we were living in the Village. I had a shaved head. It was probably our lowest moment. I'd lost all initiative. I was smoking heavily, and
Cigars.
Yeah, and and I remember my ex-girlfriend and her friend found out where we lived and came and knocked on the door just to stand on my doorstep and laugh at me.
Wow.
They had come by just to laugh at me.
You had her killed, right?
No.
Oh.
But it was such a low moment. It's like, golly, man, this is so mean-spirited, so low. But we had been broke for so long chasing this dream. When I started selling advertising, I started making money. And I'm like, wait a second, I could finance this. I can pay for studio time. I can buy beats. And so I started buying beats from producers, and some of them were $200. Some of them were more expensive. I remember I bought one beat from S1, a symbolic one, that was $950. And it was the most expensive beat that I bought on the project.
Was it Feel It, right?
I think it may have been Feel It. I'm not sure if it was Feel It or it was the one about my dad.
So for those who don't
Yeah.
know, explain who S1 is.
So S1 is a producer, rap music, and came up in a band called Strange Fruit Project out of Waco. And he has gone on to produce music for Kanye West, Madonna, Beyonce,
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z just released a book on just how, his journey in all of that. And he's an incredible talent. And we went to New York, Ben and I and our families, for a trip. And that was the whole trip from LaGuardia to the hotel, was Ben talking to S1, just trying to secure this beat, just salesman Ben, just trying to work it down into this beat.
I can remember going to see S1. He worked for a company called Microchip Center or something. It was some microchip thing. And his corporate office where he had to work was out at the airport. So I would have to pull up on his lunch break, on my lunch break, and get, beats from him to listen to like 20 beats and find out about which one I liked or whatever, and then try to buy it from him. And he would have to hustle out, give it to me, and then run back in and work. And so when he charged me $950 for a beat, that was by far the most I was hearing about, like on a local scene, but I'd fallen in love with the beat. Well, after he then goes and wins all these Grammys, I can't imagine what you would have to pay to get S1. He
Add
produced
several zeros onto that.
yeah,
Probably.
he produced 3 songs on Grown on this album. And what would it cost to get him to produce those songs now?
I mean, it'd be way different now. He picks and chooses what he wants to do now,
Yeah.
who he wants to work with and all that kind of stuff. So.
But Feel It, the song Feel It, he was working on these, he had these tribal chants he was messing with. And we played this on the show the other day. So he's playing these tribal chants and he samples it in Feel It. And then later on, he worked with Kanye West like not long after this. And he was still messing with the same type of tribal chants. And so if you listen to Power by Kanye West, which S1 produced, it's a chant that he's messing with. And where did you say those are from?
So I believe he got it from a prog record over at our buddy Jimmy. There's a studio out in East Dallas, or I guess it's technically Mesquite, called Clear Light. And Jimmy Bowman. Actually, did you go to high school with Jay Jernigan?
That name sounds really
Jay
familiar.
Jernigan's about your age. He's got a ton of vintage analog gear, but he's a total prog head. And so when S1 was doing stuff around the time of the cannabinoids and all that, he was going over there, and then Jay was introducing him to a lot of prog records. So I don't remember the original sample, but it's a prog sample. There's a I'd say he's an indie rapper. He's had a pretty high degree of success named Rhymefest. And he's probably, his big moment is he wrote Kanye's Jesus Walks, which was a big hit. Yep. So S1 was working with Rhymefest, and Rhymefest is obviously tight with Kanye. And he called Kanye and said, "You've got to hear this." And he sent it to Kanye, and then Kanye called S1 and said, "I'm about to change your life." And he did. Wow. And Power has, been licensed to 1 million films and commercials, and that was the thing where it took off. He ended up producing the majority of a Madonna record. But he was with this group, Strange Fruit Project. They were from Waco. And their manager, B. Wells, we had been doing a lot of shows with him. We actually had Ali Shaheed Muhammad come down and DJ. And so I had hooked Ben up with B. Wells and was like, Ben was looking for beats. I was like, you need to check out this S1 dude. He's pretty incredible. And so originally B. Wells had hooked us up, and then it was really good timing because 6 or 7 months later you can't really get S1. He signed a publishing deal with Rock Nation, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow. So we get the EP done. Now we're full in. Did you know this was going to turn into a full-fledged full album?
Yes.
When this was done,
without question. But once we did the EP, and I think we did the EP just because we were impatient. We were like, we need to get something out.
We had these songs. You had the itch, and we had some opportunity around Texas OU weekend and Trees that you had. Again, Ben's like, we can go into Trees and play at Trees.
So you did two shows.
Yeah, so we did one for the EP.
Yeah.
I guess at Trees, and then we did one show that we did with a real musical at Ticket Stock, which we just went all out. It was called Glitter Pockets. But I think once we got to this point with the EP, and I started realizing, wait a second, I think we can do this. To me, then it was like, okay, I graduated high school in 89, college in 99. What am I going to tell my kids about that? It wasn't like I had some huge successful career in music. I really didn't have much to show them except that little cassette, and like a couple other CDs, but no completed album. So I thought, what the hell? It's so much fun. Why not go ahead and make an album? And at the time, kids, we didn't have the huge kid expenses. I was making really good money selling advertising. And so, some people get into golf. Some people get into whatever. I got into making an album.
I got into guns.
I'm like, I want a project to represent my life's work in music. And
and this isn't a cheap hobby. I mean, if anyone's ever made a record, most people haven't. But when you have, this isn't cheap. And you were telling me the figures before. And I mean, I back in the local scene, I financed a few albums and lost my ass on them. I mean,
yeah.
So I don't know if you want to divulge what you put in here, but
I think, and I could be wrong, but I remember my wife asking me a lot of questions about it. And really it drug out over so long. I think it took 2 years to make.
Yeah.
Because we were working with Malix, and then we moved to work with Chris Godby, who's gone on to do a lot of great things, right?
Yeah, he's worked a lot with Timbaland, and he's a very sought after mixing, not recording engineer, but mixing.
So I think at the end of it was like $40,000 is what this cost to make. And it's like,
that's everything from the first beat to getting it pressed.
I think that's what it was. For whatever reason, I had that number in my head for a while, and I remember my wife chastising me. But it was like the doing it over multiple years. It was just fun, man, and it became everything I wanted to do.
So when it was done, I mean, you and I have talked about this. It wasn't done to go shop. It wasn't done to get a record deal. It wasn't done. You said it was done as closure.
Yeah, I wanted that. I wanted something to show my kids. And so for that reason, I tried to, a couple things about the Grown album. I tried not to cuss. I tried to do a song a whole album where I did not use a cuss word. I think I got pretty close. I think there might be one edgy one.
Yeah,
there one questionable.
I think we bumped the line one
time. And I wanted it. It says on it, rap music for grown-ups. And so I'm rapping about having good credit or being able to rent a caddy or, go on my way to my corporate grind job. And
And my favorite song on here is Paycheck, and it's like living check to check.
yeah, it's like, hey,
That's the best song on there, in my little humble opinion.
well, it's like you live check to check when you don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
But now I had a lot of money and I was still living check to check. So
I just punched your thing into
Yeah.
the inflation calculator.
So basically, in today's world, it would have been about 55 grand. So it makes you feel good. You could be driving a car for
Not
what
a terrible
this is.
appreciation there.
so
I mean,
keep in mind other thing at this time, I went from my ex-girlfriend laughing at me on my front porch, to my lowest of low, having like no money, to now I was doing really, really well. And I had I am embarrassed about this. When I did lease this Lexus,
the Texas Lexus.
I leased this Lexus and I just wanted it so bad. It was such a bad, all right, I'll just say it.
It's just as much a member of this album
It was
as
a-
all of these human beings that were involved.
It was a $900 lease payment.
Oh,
I didn't
Let me punch that into the inflation calculator.
I didn't own it. And so the other thing I bought was and this was before Max was born and he's 16. So I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I bought
Here's why Ben's kids won't go to college.
I bought a saltwater aquarium. And so I had this aquarium, and before I was pouring money into this album, I was pouring money into that aquarium. And it was this huge aquarium.
Where's that aquarium now, Ben?
And
I
so,
can only imagine.
so what happens
Was that
is
leased?
It looked real sad.
you start off with corals, and you have all these beautiful corals, and it's this ecosystem. And then you're like, oh, I got to go every weekend. I got to go buy a new coral, buy a new coral, buy a new coral. And
This fish needs a Lexus.
it's boring. It's boring. I got to add some. Then I switched to fish. And so you start adding all these little fish, and you're at the aquarium store. And you're like, all right, what else you got? What
So
else you got?
did the aquarium salesman just see you coming?
Oh, they
each
had to be
week?
so
Everybody
happy.
does.
They had to be so happy. Everybody shut up. Here he is.
It's Thursday.
It's like,
Where's
we're going to
Ben?
film this shark,
And-
and this shark leaked that other fish that he got last week, and then he'll have to come back and get more fish for that shark.
So-
Listen, team, we're going to make our nut off Rogers. He's going to be here this afternoon. Everybody
was
get
like-
your positions.
So one night I go there, and there's this shark, and he's swimming around in a tank with no rocks in it, nothing. I'm like, damn, the head on that shark is huge. The tail's tiny. That's a pretty impressive looking shark. And I was like, can I put this shark in my aquarium? He's like, what fish do you have? I got this. He goes, oh, yeah, I won't mess with those. I was like, all right, great. So I go home and I put this shark in this saltwater aquarium. The next day I'm up. I'm like, where's my yellow tang? Next day I'm like, where's my emo fish? And I'm like, and meanwhile, that shark hides all the time. The shark hides. I never see the shark. I never get to enjoy the shark. But every night that shark would come out and eat a $40 fish for dinner. And so I'm like, that was like having a fireplace for money, just burning cash. I'm throwing some more cash in there. So there was a couple things at this time that the Coffee Nods album ultimately ended up replacing.
Well, when we're done with this, can I talk to you about financing the next
I'm
couple
never
of
doing
DFW
that
Racing
again.
Series titles?
Hey, can I say something real quick? Because I really dig it. I know for sure he was on Test Me. Is Bavu? Is that the only
Yes,
song
Bavu
Bavu's on?
Blakes.
Yeah.
Bavu just texted and said, "I'm really enjoying the live stream." So
Yes.
Bavu,
Thank you.
Okay.
and he's wearing. Yeah, look at this, Jason. That's Bavu's deal. Hip hop grew up, which Bavu's younger than us. But there's a similar concept to what Ben was doing on Grown to what Bavu is doing. By the way, Bavu Blakes is changing. Thank you so much. DJ's wife was nice enough to give me another big German. But Bavu is changing the face of Austin education. Like, he's a very smart, learned man. So Ben was surrounding himself with smart, badass people to make this a beautiful project.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember,
We love you, Bavu.
We love Bavu. So, we look at this like I think one of the things I like about sports is building a team.
Right.
And so I kind of looked at this the same way. Like, what if I could get Bavu to do? So Bavu was really close with Skin, and I was like, maybe, what do you think? Would Bavu? I can remember when Bavu agreed to be on this project, how excited I was. I was like, oh my God, Bavu's going to be on this. And so, Chuck and Tahiti, and, outside of the producers, we got this singer named Siamar. One of the most important things for this project to me was Aziz. And Aziz is
TJ Hooker.
man, he's just this guy that is so talented. Like, every once in a while, I'll be here at Rollertown and I'll watch somebody doing acoustic songs. And I'm like, how is that guy not the biggest star in the world. I looked at Aziz and I was like, how is he not the biggest star in the universe right now? Everything he ever does on a beat sounds immaculate. And
have you ever seen Boys in the Hood?
Yeah.
Aziz was very much like Furious Styles.
Okay.
You know how that character knew every single thing there was to know about a neighborhood and knew how to interact with people. Mm-hmm. He almost reminds me of like a Furious Styles character, where he just carried himself with this amazing amount of integrity, to where when you were in his midst, you like had a lot of respect for the way he approached the world.
yeah,
He was a deep dude. He was a really special dude.
while we were jamming, I don't remember the skin. Did you hook us up with D Madness?
No, Bavu did.
Okay,
Bavu did.
okay. So we ended up connecting with D Madness, and D Madness is a guy who, how would you describe him?
So D Madness was a multi-instrumentalist, and at that time, if I remember correctly, Bavu was doing shows with D Madness. So D Madness, not that it has anything to do with his musical ability, but D Madness was blind, and a blind dude playing drums and playing keys and playing bass. So he could do it simultaneously. Wow. Like, he was a freakish musical talent. And so Bavu was using him in his live set. And then when Ben wanted to move away from samples, D Madness was able to go in and fill in those spaces. You know, so you still had the raw beats and you still had that production element, but D Madness could fill in all the musical spaces that eased Ben's concerns about any kind of sampling worries.
He reconstructed Astronaut that night in the studio when we knew we needed to change it. We had D there, and just track by track, we just broke that song completely back down to its beat and rhyme. And then layer by layer, D came back in and we just built it back up.
But here's what I would say about this project is, one of the things I like to say about it is I had the hottest producer in the world and still failed because S1 was you could fart on a beat and S1 made it and go win a Grammy. But
in all fairness, you didn't really shop it. We didn't put it out there because I still think, had there been the desire, and it's not a knock, but had there been the desire, had you assembled that next level team of the attorney and the manager and everybody who was going to go do that for you, you don't know what would have happened.
I like to think that way. Let's just pretend that's true. The reality is, I look like John Goodman, and I look like an undercover cop, and I'm wearing a tie to work. And
I think that in order for this to have worked on the level you're talking about, it would have needed to come 6 or 7 years later. Because 2006 is sort of this wasteland space between the old way of doing things and the new way of doing things. And I think that if this had existed, if you look at how I very much remember watching a Lil Dicky video and liking it, but thinking he was a corny white dude.
Right.
Because I didn't know, but I'm like, oh, okay, here's another YouTube video. I get it. Yeah, we make YouTube videos, whatever. Not knowing the depth of everything that he had. And I think if this had come out in 2012 or 2013 at the real advent of social media, I think that would have had those sort of opportunities that you're talking about. But I mean, what is this? This is probably around the time that Jay-Z's doing his retirement record and all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just existed in an in-between space with how media was changing.
This album though still sounds current.
It's a great record.
Like when you put it on sonically, I mean, everything about it still sounds current. I mean, there are some records.
Hold on, didn't you get Kanye's guy to master it?
So we had Chris Godby did the whole thing, the whole project. Ended up basically remixing every song, and we sent it to Beverly Hills. Somebody had given us some place in Beverly Hills.
I thought the dude that did Kanye's graduation record or something mastered it.
Was it Master Disc?
Which one?
Was it Master Disc?
Maybe I don't recall. I just remember
Bernie
you
Grant.
calling.
I remember
the guy.
sending the stems to someone.
We wrote a big check to Beverly Hills.
We wrote a big check to Beverly Hills.
Hey, you just over there. We have it over there.
But I think more than anything, I think you're so smart to bring up the DFW hip hop page.
Yeah,
that was so influential in this. And for me, going back to team building, I was able to pluck. What if I can convince this rapper? What if I can convince this producer? What if I can get this musician? And let's go jam. Let's go hang out at Malik's studio. What if I could get Chris Godby to do this or that? And so really, and again, this kind of, to your point, when you were talking about hydroponic sound system, the reason this isn't called the Ben Rogers album or Ben and Jason or whatever, not only would that be a bad name, but it was a collective. It was a group effort. It was a super team of people that I admired tremendously. And I was like, man, come help me try to get this closure and create this project that I can show my kids someday and be proud of. And
I also think this. I think that's honestly the reason why it's worthy of being DFW Legacy Series. I know you have a personal tie to it, because of y'all's relationship. But if you're putting this within the spectrum of DFW music, I mean, there's some extraordinary talent on here.
Exactly.
And so it does become a part of the Legacy Series for that reason.
There was several reasons. That's one. Ben and you have gone on to become, radio royalty
Huge
here.
megastars, giant.
And part of the Legacy Series is, and a couple of our guys are here, first and foremost, it was a passion project. We're picking records that we personally want in our collection. We hope to God they break even and we're not writing checks at the end, but we're at that point in our life where we've got a little bit of disposable income. So if we have to write a check, it's fine.
Right.
But there's four of us and we all kind of decide. And, I brought up the coffee nods and I got a little bit of the, huh? Like who?
What?
But then you start playing the music for people and then I start telling the story and people start coming around on it. And
there's
I think,
Grammys on this record.
If you haven't heard it, and again, partially saying this to sell it, but I truly mean it. If you haven't heard this record yet, there's a Spotify link in a lot of the posts that we've put up. This will stand up today. You can listen to it today. There are some great songs. There's some, the lyrical, like the way you've written some of the lyrics, the stories you're telling, the writing is amazing. Like it's not just bubblegum pop throwaway. Like there's stories, there's metaphors, there's everything it's smart.
The core of this guy right here is just an incredible storyteller.
Yeah.
And that is, when it comes to doing this project, when the spark snapped finally, I knew I was going to be in no matter whatever I can do to help push this thing, because I know that the content is going to come from that perspective. And
I think the reason it's great is because, I'm looking at some of these songs now and thinking about them. But I think the reason it's great is because it's not trying to adhere to anything. And when we first started and people were trying to get behind us, it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. There was just an earnestness within it. And so, you can go listen to whatever was happening in rap in 2006, and it wasn't really this.
yeah.
And I don't mean that in a negative
No, you're
way.
right. You're right. Yeah.
I think it was just very much why people do music in the first place.
Well, you did it for a love. You did it as a passion.
Did it for love.
You did it for what you wanted to listen to, what you thought was good. And
Yeah. And it is a little bit, I'm in a time warp a little bit lyrically, because that's when I was rapping in the 90s. And I wasn't trying to be some new school thing. I really wanted to have something to represent my journey in music. That's why it was for closure. And so two things I want to say. When I first fell in love with rap music, Sugar Hill Gang is the first album I bought. I went to Skaggs Albertsons or Alpha Beta or whatever.
Rapper's Delight.
For Rapper's Delight, which I freaking loved. And then I would listen to KNON, The Snake, Big Al, and Casanova Rock. And I would listen to these local rap shows. And I don't even know what year is this.
I probably would have been 86 or 85, somewhere in there.
They were playing the Fresh Prince, but it was, before he was famous.
Parents Just Don't Understand, or it would have been that. The first one was Parents Just Don't Understand, I think was the first one.
And it was these, it wasn't hardcore, edgy hip hop, right? But I loved it. Like I couldn't wait to hear a Prince song. And then later it was became corny to like Fresh Prince or whatever. He became a megastar of the universe. But I think what was the I respect women when I'm on a date. I
that
take
was
them to the
from
park.
Family Guy.
Okay, that was Family Guy making fun of Will Smith. And I hear that and I hear myself a little bit because I'm very influenced by Will Smith early on, and I love enunciating. I love being able to hear the lyric. I love being able to, but most of the time I like music better if you can't really hear every lyric, crystally clear. But the other thing I want to say about the Grown Project and the Coffee Nods is This guy, Jason Ferrantello, was the heart of it.
He's the reason it happened.
He's the reason it happened, and his creativity knows no bounds. And so this is a guy who was like the 13th guy Mark Cuban hired at AudioNet. He's a guy who can take your computer and rebuild it right in front of you, or come up with a cool jingle for someone, or a slogan, or a logo. He could build a website. There's nothing. He's a photographer. He's a filmmaker. There's nothing Jason Ferrantello cannot do creatively. He's
it's made his life miserable because Ben has abused this for years.
He's the most creative guy I've ever known, and his ability with technology is unheard of. Like, he literally can do anything with technology. And so if you look at the artwork on this, the logos, the way it's designed, it's like we went out and hired the greatest design firm in the country to make this little project that no one was really ever going to hear. I mean, the artwork in this is freaking exceptional.
The gatefold, what you did on the album when it comes out, when people see it, are going to love it. I mean, it is fantastic.
I just got another text from Babu. He said, "Test Me is one of my favorite verses. Grown is my 21st appearance on vinyl. Appreciate y'all. Make sure Ben and
Yes.
That's awesome.
So, Test Me is Aziz singing the hook. And, it's think about this. It's not, so I was living in Frisco, and we had a guy that lived behind us who would just come over to our house. And so this guy would just come over to the house and say, "Hey, man, y'all partying?"
Backdoor style.
Backdoor. He'd come through the fence to the back door at like 2 a.m. "Hey, I heard y'all partying. Can I come in and drink with you?" And I would always like open the door, just barely crack it. And I'd be like, "No, man, we're good. Or we're shutting it down. We're going to bed." He's like, "Hey, y'all got any beer in there? The beer stores are closed. Can I buy some of y'all's beer?" And I would close it. I'd be like, "Nah, sorry, man. Could you come around to the front door next time and maybe come in the daylight?" And my friend Meat would always go, "Oh, no, but hey, yeah, come on in. We're going for a few more hours. You can have all this beer. Go get in the fridge." And so he would invite this guy in the house. And so this song, Test Me, was an idea of, okay, why are you trying to test me? But I'm not saying I'm some bad mother effer and you're going to get it. I'm saying, dude, quit testing me. In the Burbs, I wrote a verse about that guy. I wrote a verse about road rage. And Bavu is writing about, man, I'm trying to quit smoking, quit trying to test me. And it was just, I mean, conceptually, I'm really proud of every song. I think each song was well thought out, and there's meaning behind each thing. And
hey, you want to know something cool?
Yeah.
I just heard Aziz was on the live stream watching it.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? All right. I just got chills.
Well, let's do it. So we got to kind of start wrapping up.
We're going to be on forever.
We've
Can
flown
I
through
say this
our
one more
hour.
thing?
Yeah.
Aziz, I love you. Thank you for helping me with this project. It couldn't have happened without you. Most talented dude I've ever met in my life. Freaking love you. Thank you.
So here's what I think we should do. This is slated to come out the end of February, early March. So we are in production. Vinyl production's going crazy, but it's being done by our great friends at Hand Drawn Records.
Those are amazing people.
And Addison, Dustin Blocker, and his team are fantastic. It's high quality products.
By the way, we did this whole big nonprofit project.
Don't get there. I'm going to ask you about that in just a second.
I'll shut the fuck up.
I want to talk to you about that in just a second. So I would love to do this again here, but maybe do a little storytellers type and do a listening party where we can come back in March.
Yeah.
Let's play the songs.
I
so
told
people
him
can hear
y'all
them.
are going to sell all of those when they're in hand. They're going to fly out of here.
So I hope so.
They will.
It's like I told Ben. I'm like, hey, look, I think we've passed the 52 mark. So now we're 11th in line at the 12th.
We're not the worst.
We're not the worst. But I think, I'm
54,
excited
man.
about it. So we're getting there.
Number 10 with a bullet.
But
Here we go.
love to do this again and do a listening party, and we'll have DJ figure out how we can feed music through.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It'd be great to try to get to, some of these guys that were a huge part of this that are watching.
I know Reraj will come out because he loves beer.
Oh
Yes.
my God, Reraj, produce Paycheck.
Well, we always kind of want to end this and bring it back to the present day and what's going on. And so, Skin, I know, you put out the Truth to Power project. It was a big record store day release, and I just want to give you my condolences. I know that you were tight with Chadwick Murray, and that was a big loss in the, not just Dallas music scene. That's a big loss to music in general. Tell us about Truth to Power.
Yeah, so the Truth to Power project, I'll make this super brief. It happened because of the pandemic. We started a record label to put out Bastards of Soul and then release the record, and then the pandemic happened, so we kind of pulled back our efforts. And then my partner in that, Luke Sardello at Josie Records, is a really good man. And when George Floyd died and we're all sitting here and we're all miserable and depressed, it was like, we should donate money. And so we thought, well, let's not donate money. Let's try to do more. Let's donate money, but let's do more than that. And so we started trying to get our music friends involved in recording a music project that we thought we could sell later. And it snowballed a lot of good ways. The Dallas Mavericks got behind us. Universal Music got behind us. So on Record Store Day back in June of 2021, we released a triple record that had the Black Pumas on it, Leon Bridges, and Bad Not Good, and Bastards of Soul, and a lot of great local artists, hip hop and soul and jazz and different things. And so what we wanted it to be was a creative endeavor in which sports and music and community came together, and everyone tried to care about each other because we spent so much time fighting with one another over bullshit. So Delta kind of waylaid us a little bit because we had a series of shows we're going to do, and we're still going to do all these shows, and we have amazing things coming for 2022. But if you're watching this, you're probably a vinyl fan, so do pick up the Truth to Power record on vinyl. You can buy it online. Locally, I know Good Records has it. I know Josie has it. I'm sure NTX has it. But if you pick it up, every single effort that's involved, every dollar that we raise goes to the nonprofits. 4 Oak Cliff, Young Leaders Strong City, Music Forward, which is a music-oriented program, and Joppy Mama's Farm, which is in the food desert in the South Sector. And we've got a lot more things coming and a lot more great ideas coming and some films coming and all these different things that we're very, very proud of. And your friends at Hand Drawn Records pressed this vinyl up for us with no margin. Wow. They didn't make a dime off of it. So the good people that, just so you know, if you want to support something awesome, buying this record, this grown record, the same people that pressed this record did the Truth to Power record for us. When there was a shortage of vinyl and hard to make a profit, they did it for no profit. So shout out to Hand Drawn Records. They're amazing people. Shout out to anybody, artist working when there's no live shows, giving us their efforts for free. That is truly community. And music and sports brings out the best in people. And that's what me and Ben believe in. I know Jason does too. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I also want to give him credit for that too, because it's easy to see things you don't like and just go get on social media. It's a lot harder to actually try to change the world and make a difference. And so he poured his heart and soul into doing exactly that. And instead of just getting online and venting, he went out and made the world a better place. So I have so much respect for Skin and just so much respect for this project.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I picked it up on Record Store Day. It's a phenomenal release. I mean, every track on it. Yeah, you guys did a fantastic job.
I'm really happy and proud of all the artists involved because they gave us amazing music.
And then you two guys, so we're in the lovely Rollertown Beerworks.
We are here.
I can't imagine trying to open this in the middle of a pandemic. So kudos to you on that.
Guys. Great idea.
So tell us a little bit about Rollerworks Beer.
Yeah, Rollertown
Beerworks. So why people should come out, what they can get.
So I was at my son's youth baseball game, and one of the dads was like, we just bought a building in Salina that'd be great for a brewery. And I was like, what? I know a guy who knows everything about craft beer. Around that time, Skin had been going to different local breweries and giving them love on social media. Hey, I'm going to be at this brewery on Saturday. I'm going to be at this brewery next Saturday. And people wanted to go drink beer with Skin. And finally, I saw like all the hosts at the station also wanted to go. So we started this thing called the Brew Crew Tour, where we would go have a good time at a brewery, hang out with listeners, and we'd hype it up to give the brewery some promotion. And the first one I went to was at Noble Ray. And it was like 130 degrees outside, and there was a line around the building. And I was like, oh, my God, people love drinking beer with Skin, more than I even knew. And eventually got in there, and I was like, this is so cool. And so we then pitched that dad who had mentioned that, what if we put together a beer concept, a brewery? He's like, yeah, I'm willing to listen. So I called my brother, who Jonathan, and his wife Angela, and like they're marketing wizards. And I was like, can you help me and Skin put this beer brand together, and we did this deep dive on the history of the Ben and Skin show and the history of Salina, Texas, which if you don't know, it's just north of Prosper, which is just north of Frisco. And around 1900, the city of Salina, when the Frisco Railway came in, they didn't weave it over to every small town, kind of like Lightning McQueen, the interstate bypassed their little town. And so Mater, you know how that went. And so each town was forced with, we got to get over to that railroad or our town's going to die. So Salina put their most important buildings on rollers, and they used steam engines, and they pulled those buildings 2 miles. They destroyed crops. They drugged the town to the railroad. So they rolled the town. So we've had to be willing to be mobile to chase opportunity. We've been at Fox Sports 1190. We've been at The Ticket. We've been at Live 105.3. We've been at The Fan twice. Now we're at 97.1 The Eagle. We've had to be willing to be mobile to chase opportunity. Salina had to do the same. And really, it's a metaphor for all of us because opportunity is not going to knock your door down. So when you drink a Rollertown, you're saluting that effort, that mentality that, hey, the life I want is over there. I'm going to go get it. And so that's kind of what the spirit of our brand embodies. And we went to Dirk and we're like, hey, we want to name a beer after you. It's a German Kolsch. And what's the tagline for it?
We like to say minimal hops with a smooth finish. Just like Dirk.
Just like Dirk. It's blonde. It's got no hops and a smooth finish. And so we're now in over 60 restaurants, and we're a little engine that could. We're getting a lot of love and support from people, and we're grateful for every bit of it. But much, again, like Skin on Truth to Power or like this or whatever, I think we're both, I think we think of each other like we're been around sports. And so you think about building a team, And so the team we have is an all-star team. It's very much like Grown for me in that I'm the worst part of the album.
I agree.
And so there's all these talented people. But like Skin and I aren't making the beer. We went out and got Tommy Miller, who's one of the greatest brewers in the local beer scene. So we got a badass making our beer.
He's
an
awesome.
Incredible team. Everybody, Jesse, Crystal, Billy, everybody on our team is phenomenal. And so we're doing something very special. And we've got some very special investors that people would be familiar with their names if they knew. We went back to a lot of the athletes we've covered over the history of our career and said, we'd like for you to invest in our dream. And to us, I think it meant a lot that no one told us no. All the people we went and asked said, yeah, I'm in.
That's awesome.
It's really, really powerful. So Rollertown Beerworks in Salina, Texas, it's the little engine that could. But
and this is the first of the coffee nods parties that we're going to, because when the records are in hand, we want to do a release party here.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, we think that'd be a lot of fun.
100%. Well, guys, thank you very much. We really appreciate taking the time.
So we're going to commercial break, but we're going to keep going, right?
We carry this over to the next
do it,
segment.
yeah, because actually my beer is probably nice and warm since it's been sitting here, so I'm going to try the new ones.
Coming up next, the best of Leonard Skinner.
The Coffee Nods Grown is available now to pre-order at DFWLegacySeries.com. While you're there, hopefully you're going to see some other titles that you know and love from the DFW music scene over the last 15, 20 years. Thank you very much for your support. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you, guys. See you later.
Please buy it.
Buy it up, please.